Well, hello there. Happy Monday. I'm Hillary. This is the 4-Minute Buzz, and let's get into some of today's top stories. Well, good news. All hell did not break loose over in the Middle East. Last week, we reported that both President Trump and Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu issued harsh ultimatums to Hamas after it tried to suspend the ceasefire agreement. But then Hamas backed down, and the next wave of hostage releases went down without a problem on Saturday. American-Israeli Segui Dekolchen, age 36, was among the 3 hostages released by Hamas on Saturday morning after being held in captivity in Gaza for almost a year and a half. The other 2 hostages were Israelis Sasha Trufanov, age 29, and Yair Horn, age 46. The 3 men appeared pale and worn, but they seemed to be in better physical condition than the 3 hostages released last Saturday, who had emerged emaciated from 16 months of captivity. All 3 of these men were victims of the horrific October 7th attack. 2 were being held by Hamas, and 1 was being held by another militant group in Gaza called Islamic Jihad. Dekolchen is the father of 3 girls, one of whom he had never met, as his wife was 7 months pregnant when he was taken hostage. Now, miraculously, his wife and 2 other daughters survived the attack, and their family has become whole once again. Now, in exchange for the 3 hostages, Israel released 369 Palestinian prisoners, 36 of which had been sentenced to life for their involvement in deadly attacks against Israelis. Now, so far, Israel has released over 1,000 prisoners compared to the 24 Israeli hostages who've been freed by Hamas since the ceasefire began. Negotiations for the second wave of the ceasefire are currently ongoing. And in some more foreign news, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appeared on MSNBC's Meet the Press over the weekend, and he made some concerning comments.
Thing that President Trump said this week. He did not say yes when he was asked if he sees Ukraine as an equal member in the peace process. He did say later that Ukraine would have a seat at the table. Have you been given any assurances that Ukraine will have an equal seat at the negotiating table?
So I will never accept any decisions between the United States and Russia about Ukraine. Never. And our people, never. And our adults and children and everybody. It can't be so. This is the war in Ukraine against us, and it's our human losses. And we are thankful for all the support, unity between USA, in USA, around Ukraine support, bipartisan unity, bipartisan support. We're thankful for all of this, but there is no any leader in the world who can really make a deal with Putin without us, about us.
Well, we'll see if President Trump can negotiate a compromise. And lastly, a new Cold War has begun, and it is riveting. The National Hockey League is currently hosting the 2025 Four Nations Face-Off Hockey Tournament. This event gathers the best players in the NHL has to offer, and it has them don jerseys from their home countries, America, Canada, Finland, and Sweden. And Saturday's game between the USA and Canada, it was wild. The animosity was boiling over before the puck was even dropped as the Canadian fans in attendance booed throughout the singing of America's national anthem. So a few USA players decided they had had enough. So within the first 9 seconds of the game, 3 fights broke out, 2 of which included 2 American brothers, Matthew and Brady Tkachuk, who hugged when they were placed in the penalty box. Now, in the end, America beat the Canadian team on their home ice in Montreal 3-1, securing their place in the championship. So go USA. It was a really, really good game. I'm Hillary. That's your 4-Minute Buzz. Now here's Glenn and Stu with the show.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much, Hillary.
The fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Hello, America. Well, if you listen to the mainstream media, you would think that the world is not respecting us. It's starting to hate our guts. Well, is that true? I want to go over a little bit of what happened last week and now what's coming this week in Washington. Well, does the world hate us or are we gaining respect? Let's look. Last week, Trump was busy with the world leaders. On Wednesday, Trump said he had a very lengthy phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin in which they agreed to begin negotiations around Ukraine. On Truth Social, Trump posted, "Good possibility of ending this horrible, very bloody war." They also discussed the Middle East, energy, and other issues and agreed to make visits to each other's country. The president also spoke to the Australian Prime Minister. They discussed defense, trade, investment, mineral supply chains, and concerns about China's aggressiveness. Also last week, the world came to the White House. King Abdullah of Jordan, he was at the White House. They discussed the situation in Gaza. And then late in the week, it was the turn of India's Prime Minister Modi. He visited the White House. They talked about launching a new initiative on military partnership, commerce, and our countries are going to work together on semiconductors and AI. In the end, the Prime Minister of India said, we're going to make India great again as well. The 51st governor, the one that runs Canada, is still not happy with Trump. It played out this weekend in a Canadian soul-crushing event. I'll get to that in just a minute. In Germany over the weekend, they were listening to our new vice president, J.D. Vance. They were a little upset because he said the control of thoughts and free speech has to end. It actually made one of the leaders of the group weep openly, saying that it just showed how far apart Europe and America really are. And yes, as the Germans bust down doors for a retweet, I agree. On free speech, we're quite far apart. 60 Minutes did a segment on it. That's our topic next hour. But the Germans are now claiming that it was free speech that led to the Holocaust. Excuse me? In Paris, European leaders huddled behind closed doors over the weekend, debating Ukraine's future. Official statements spoke of unity, but is that the reality? France and Germany, they're whispering peace talks, while Poland and the Baltics brace for something much, much worse. It's a war of words at this point for now, but history suggests words don't end wars. Back home, Washington in its own battlefield, this time over tariffs. The president announced last week a simple plan. Whatever you charge us, we're going to charge you. China was very upset. Boo-hoo. Wall Street panicked. In the heartland, farmers remembered fair trade means fair play. Over the weekend, storms rolled in as well. They came fast and they came hard. It was Kentucky, West Virginia, Tennessee, and Virginia. 4 states that are now digging out from flash floods that swallowed roads and homes and lives. But among the storm clouds, there was a little parting. Some good news. Small-town America doesn't wait for Washington. Neighbors showed up. Churches opened doors. And somewhere, a farmer with a backhoe is already clearing a neighbor's driveway. That's America. Back in Washington this week, President Trump is delivering on his promises while even attending the Super Bowl and NASCAR. He's done all kinds of things, including last week a decisive 25% tariff on foreign steel and aluminum, aiming to protect American jobs and industries. Those jobs and industries here in America took a leap on the stock market. Critics are grumbling, but Main Street applauds as finally a leader puts America first. On Capitol Hill, Republicans are tackling a 6-point agenda. This is all about the budget and a looming shutdown. Budget resolutions and reconciliation bills aim to bolster defense, secure our borders, all the while keeping a keen eye on the deficit. It's a tough balance. Democrats support the The Democrats' support is absolutely needed to keep the government from running post-March 14th. Bipartisan cooperation is a necessity, it seems, because we're going to lose some stupid rhinos. Meanwhile, the Justice Department is undergoing transformation. 7 prosecutors have resigned after being directed to drop corruption charges against New York City's Mayor Eric Adams. Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove cites governance concerns for the dismissal. Critics say it's a political maneuver. It's Nixon's Saturday Night Massacre. We'll see. As Kash Patel should be confirmed early this week. And as he is, if he is, on day one, expect the Epstein client list to follow within hours of him arriving at the Hoover building. The Budget Committee, back to them, they have approved in the Senate, approving a fiscal year 2025 budget. The plan emphasizes bolstering border security, military strength, independence, and an annual allocation of $85.5 billion, an offset by corresponding spending cuts reflecting a commitment to fiscal responsibility. House Republicans are navigating their internal debates over their budget approach, and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, advocates for a comprehensive bill that combines Trump's tax cut agenda with increased funding for border security, military priorities. Our friend and serious budget cutter, Chip Roy, is with the House package. We'll see if they can bring them both together. Both chambers are working on this because funding expires on March 14th. Gee, have we ever heard that before? We can't shut down the government. Really? I don't know. Democrats are licking their chops at a government shutdown as usual, but wouldn't it be them that shut the government down? And quite honestly, really, I've had enough of this game. Would anybody notice? Maybe this time the Republicans won't blow it. Trump sent the Pentagon a Valentine on Friday. That Valentine just pretty much said, "Be mine." He sent the DOGE team out to the Pentagon on Friday. Their mission is to cut the waste, cut the crap at the Department of Defense. I think they're going to do that. Last night, I don't know if Stu watched, Hollywood. They took the stage. Saturday Night Live celebrated 50 years of laughs, or depending on who you ask, 50 years of diminishing returns. The golden age was when Main Street was in on the joke, not the joke. Tom Hanks is in trouble. He played a MAGA supporter. Oh, and the liberal laughs ensued. Is it 2016 again? And the hockey game. I don't know if you saw the hockey game between the U.S. national team and Canada this weekend. Normally, I'm not really into sports, but sports sometimes, because it's part of culture, has a way of transcending and defining the era we live in. Sometimes it says out loud what we're all thinking. And like the horns of Jericho, it announces our arrival and our future. So let's see if we can find any echoes in the past that sound an awful lot like this weekend. In 1980, the United States was in the same situation we're in right now. And it was a hockey game that changed everything. By and large, the world had lost respect for us because, just like now, we lost respect for ourselves. Our nation had gone through some of the most intense movements in civil unrest that we had ever seen. The left seized on it, keeping us in perpetual cycle of class and societal warfare. Patriotism and trust in the government was spiraling out of control. 3 years after Jimmy Carter accepted the Democratic nomination for president, he addressed these concerns in a televised speech. It happened on July 15th, 1979. He said there was a threat to the nation, and let me quote, The threat is nearly invisible in ordinary ways. It's a crisis of confidence. It's a crisis that strikes at the very heart and soul and spirit of our national will. We can see this crisis in confidence, in the growing doubt about the meaning of our own lives, and in the loss of unity and purpose for our nation. The erosion of our confidence in the future is threatening to destroy the social and political fabric of America. Wow, does that sound familiar? And isn't it amazing how Carter could see what all of these policies were doing? He could deliver impassioned speeches on the dangerous results, but then he would go back and double down on the policies that continued the spread of the virus. The great inflation of the 1970s, it's what they used to call it. It hit a fever pitch by 1980. Interest rates spiked. They fell briefly. Then they flew up from there. Does any of this sound familiar? Banks stopped lending. Unemployment skyrocketed. The economy was clearly in a recession. The geopolitical landscape, pretty much the same. We had lost respect for ourselves, so the world didn't respect us. Soviet Union appeared to be winning the war for global hearts and minds. And then hockey. Hockey came into play. It was the battlefield of the Cold War. By 1980, the Soviet Union had taken home the gold in 5 of the 6 past Olympic Games. But then came the night of February 22nd, 1980. The game had already happened hours earlier due to a broadcast delay. Americans were expected to lose the mighty Soviet national hockey team. But then we heard Al Michaels, maybe the greatest sports call in modern history.
You've got 10 seconds. The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Schultz. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Do you believe in miracles? It was called The Miracle on Ice. Movies have been made about it. It was an announcement party, was what really it was. It was the changing of the guard. It was the birth of a new era. Herb Brooks brought together a group that everyone said could not win at a time when America was convinced it could not win. And what it announced is America is back, and we're not going to be pushed around anymore. We would no longer be taken advantage of. We would no longer allow people just to laugh at us or belittle us because we were back. Reagan came in shortly after. Now, like 1980, we've just spent 4 years under a political ideology, as Carter put it, that strikes at the very heart and soul and spirit of our national will. Our young people, they don't care about America anymore. They don't have pride or love for the country because we haven't raised them that way. In most cases, school is saying there's no reason to be proud of your country. People take it for granted. They're ashamed of the accomplishments of America, her history, and the very ideology on which she stands. Now, before I get into this last part, I want to say I don't like the arguments between us and Canada right now. I don't like it. We've always been friends. And it's a beautiful country. It's cold. I don't want to live there, and I don't want it to be the 51st state. I think it's actually pretty funny that our president is calling the prime minister the governor. But the Canadian government, led by their progressive prime minister, our Governor Justin Trudeau, is an annoying mascot for everything that is wrong in global politics. Well, he was at the hockey game on Saturday in Canada between the national Canadian team and the U.S. national team. Rumor was our boys were a little sick and tired of being booed every time the national anthem is sung, and they weren't going to take it. Canadians didn't care. Why would they? Our country under the Democratic leadership has been toothless and apologist for 4 years. We've been taught to be ashamed of our country. Why not boo the national anthem? And boo they did. If you saw it, it made your head explode. When the puck finally dropped at the start of the game, the American center, he barely looked at the puck. He didn't care about playing the game at that point. He immediately tore off his gloves, dropped his stick, and clocked his opponent, taking him to the ground. When the referees pulled the American away, he skated with his head high, glaring at the hostile crowd. The message was clear: screw Old Glory, to your peril. It was kind of awesome. There were a total of 3 fights in the first 9 seconds, again, which I didn't like, but the Americans were on a mission. The intensity through the game was brutal. And the Americans delivered an old-fashioned American beatdown. The U.S. team delivered a message and won 3-1. I don't know. Was it the Miracle on Ice of 1980? Because that was more than a hockey game, and I couldn't help but feel the same way on Saturday. I think America is back. We're not ashamed. We're not going to be intimidated nor cower anymore. But we don't hate our neighbors. We just love our country, what she stands for, and the birth of a new prosperous and proud era, I think, is upon us. Congratulations, Team USA. Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. We're glad you're here. Hello, Stu.
Glenn, how are you?
I'm okay.
I did watch the Saturday Night Live thing.
Yeah, what'd you
over
think?
The weekend. It had its moments.
Yeah.
You know, kind of what you'd expect. You know, it was a perfect Saturday Night Live show in which it was, I think, 3.5 hours long.
Oh.
Probably had 3 funny sketches in it.
Why?
You know, I don't know.
After 50 years,
50
has
years.
America not learned its lesson?
50 years. And the first sketch they start out with was the Lawrence Welk show with Robert Goulet on it. I was like, what? Will Ferrell as Robert Goulet.
Was it new?
Yeah, it was brand new. It was live.
I
I
was a kid when Lawrence Welk was on.
Really weird choice. And you're like,
Wow.
you've had 50 years to prep for the show, and this is your first run at it. And it wasn't, again, because Ferrell's funny, it had, a couple of moments. But that was most of it, right? Like, most of it was you take a really, really funny group of people and, throw them out there on stage. It's not going to be all bad. But it was mostly, I thought, pretty bad.
Tell me about the Tom Hanks thing.
Actually, it was probably one of the best sketches in the entire show,
Really?
too. It was Black Jeopardy. And the Hanks part was at the very end. It was sort of like a throw-in at the end. Like, he just kind of came on, and his part was not funny. The rest of the sketch actually was pretty funny. That one, I would say, was one of the better ones. But again...
Well, he was the one wearing the red hat, was he not?
Yeah, but he was out there for maybe the last 30 seconds of the sketch. It was, it went on for a while. But it was actually one of the more, Eddie Murphy was on there, and he was really funny. And it was actually, that one was pretty well done.
I like seeing Eddie Murphy again.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. My name's Glenn Beck. Stu is here with us. Stu, I think everything is being done to set the stage that there's a new sheriff in town, and we're just not going to take anymore. I love the tariffs that are reciprocal. Whatever you charge, we'll charge. That's fine.
Yeah,
because that's fair.
It encourages everybody to lower them, and we don't have them anymore.
Right.
Wouldn't it be great
really
if everyone
like that.
went to zero?
Yeah, be great.
There you
be
go.
great. So don't charge us, and we won't charge you. I think that is the way it should be, because
certainly
then
fair.
Then it's fair. It's not necessarily free trade, but it's fair trade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I like that. Boy, everybody is freaking out. Everybody, Canada. This thing with Canada. What the hell is? Relax, Canada. Don't you understand? We don't want you. Okay, we don't want you. I know. Was it Denmark? I think it was Denmark that you started, saying we're going to make offers on California. Go for it, man. You got $25. I'm willing to sell it.
It's on the
Take
market. I say it's listed. Go to Zillow.
Yeah.
Check it out. You'll see it's a big listing.
Right.
I mean, it's not cheap, but honestly, we could be convinced to part with it at a very fair price.
You want to take New York and California? I'm good with that. That way you have a little vacation place. You know what I mean? You can go it's the warm part of Canada. Really? Yeah, it's called California. Take it. You could take the entire West Coast.
Now, you have to take the debt along with it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be...
And you have to put border security because we're not having any of those. Well, they'd be Canadians now, but California Canadians. None of them are leaving.
Yeah,
None of them are leaving.
Because we'd have to really be, of course, they obviously wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
So we'd have to do that ourselves, and that's going to cost us even more. I don't know if we've thought this one out completely, but yeah.
It's for sale. I'm willing to talk about it.
Well, it's funny because everyone tries to do what they see Trump is doing, which is like trolling. Right?
Yeah,
like they see, Trump's doing 51st day. Oh, yeah. Well, here's our thing. And it's like, oh, yeah. Didn't Mexico try that immediately?
Yes.
And like, did that work?
Fail.
It was a big fail.
Yeah, fail.
And, it's fun to be the big boys on the block. It kind of is.
I don't like beating my chest. However, I think beating your chest is important to reset the stage.
Yeah.
We've been wussified for so long that it's necessary to say, no, Europe, we're serious. Did you hear J.D. Vance last week? When he was talking about, going in and talking about how the EU has got to stop the silencing of free speech. And he said, look, we're just as bad. We went down this road. Do we have it? Yeah, play this.
I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
If that's what separates us, I'm happy to be separated from Europe. I'm thrilled to be. I would hope that they would reverse themselves. Wait till you hear what's happening in Germany in just a minute.
Yeah.
But the countries, all these countries are now starting to say we're the bad guys. That's fine. That's fine. As long as your policies are those policies or the policies of Trudeau, yeah, we're not best of friends. We are with your people, but we're not with your government or your policies.
Yeah, and I think the tone of this is great. I think we've had so many years of just apologizing for everything. If you remember back to the Obama-Romney election, where he was like, oh, he's going on an apology tour, and it was this big controversial thing. He's
Right.
like, no, we're not going on an apology tour. And then we would play like 9,000 times he apologized for
We
stuff.
apologize for this.
That tone feels gone with Trump and Vance, and like to go there to their faces and say, look at what you're doing. And when he articulates it this way, these things are so obvious, right? You can't banning private prayer in your homes. Like, it's such an insane thing. You'd think their response would be, well, that's not really what we're doing.
No.
And it's not. It's like, how dare you talk to us? We have to have these laws. And here's why. Germany's a great example. I know you want to get into that in a minute. And I have a couple of questions for you on that particular story. But I don't think you've particularly paid enough attention to Canada and what they're doing here, because
what is it
I feel like you're blowing off the power of Canada a little bit.
Right, okay.
And I don't think you've heard the latest.
Oh, maybe I haven't.
Maybe you haven't, because
okay.
Texas has there's
kind
a little
of
swagger.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
There's a little bit of swagger, and I think that swagger might be gone after hearing this.
Oh, okay.
Because this is Canadian Parliament member Charles Angus, and he has a message for Greg Abbott.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about sending a message to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who said Canada was going to learn a lesson. Oh, really? Texas is going to teach Canada a lesson. Well, we've got $400 million worth of travel that goes to Texas, Mr. Abbott. How about we teach you a lesson and say we got better places to go than Texas? If that's your attitude of Canadians, we will not go. Hell no, we will not go.
Wow. He told us.
He told us.
You
think Texas is going to teach Canada a lesson?
In
if
our
we
sleep.
feel like it.
Yeah, don't confuse Texas with the United States.
Right.
Okay. Texas is a whole different ball game. And yeah, I think we might.
I think we might. If we wake up from our nap, sure we will.
Yeah, but we have to be back by dinner at 5. But I think we can do that.
But yeah, maybe. But Glenn, we can't. Texas would be lost without those Canadian tourism dollars. That's really what the state is built on.
I have to tell you, I run into people all the time, and they're like, "What about this?
Yes,
or what about that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I can't find a Texan. It's all Canadians here.
We've been invaded by Canada down here." Because when you talk about the border, that's the one we're always talking about. We're like, wow, so many Canadians coming into Texas, spending all that money in our state. I mean, the budget,
really
what would happen to the budget? We somehow make it work with zero state income tax, but please, Canada, continue to... I mean, I just love that.
I can understand it. Well, you can't use oil for Texas, but, I can understand maybe saying, hey, we're going to hurt the industry because we're not going to let any, aluminum in, whatever it is. Okay.
Yeah.
But tourism.
Yeah. And I will just point this out. And again, this is coming from America's only Blue Jays fan. Okay, I'm sitting here watching to see if they re-signed Vladimir Guerrero Jr. today. That's the main thing I care about when it comes to the news. All of that being said, you just can't talk tough with that accent. It just doesn't work. I'm sorry, it's impossible. It's just literally impossible.
If you're watching the Blaze, you got to see him again. Play that again and listen to the accent and watch him. He's just.
And it's about sending a message to Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
Greg Abbott.
Who said Canada was going to learn a lesson.
Uh-huh.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Texas is going to teach Canada a lesson. Well, we've got $400 million.
Yeah. Sleep.
Again. There's Canada's great. There's a lot to love. But come on.
You can't talk tough. You just not know.
It's not a thing with that accent. Germany, you can't talk sweetly. Like you can't have a Valentine's Day in Germany.
Well, you can't say it. You can't say anything sweet and loud. You can't be like, I love you. You can't do that because it sounds like round them up.
It's true. It's true. It's what it sounds like.
Right.
He said I wanted to caress your skin. And it was like, oh.
He just said you were really, really pretty. Whoa.
No, that could be the nicest thing in the world, and you could be intimidated by it.
And if you say that, oh, really? We're going to learn a lesson. Texas is going to teach us a lesson. But you say it, right. Then you look at it and go, okay, all right.
Like, all right, calm down, dude.
Right.
With Canada, like, they're just too nice. Like, the accent's too nice, and you can't.
That's what they'd have you believe. They're a military nightmare.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
Okay.
When they invade on horseback, it's usually that it doesn't go as well, at least in the 21st century.
We're the Canadian Mounties, and we're here to talk tough to Texas. Okay. Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. We're glad. We're just talking about Saturday Night Live, their 50th. Eddie Murphy was on last night, and I miss Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Do you know what happened to him? All of a sudden, he was like, I'm Dr. Dolittle, and then he was the Invisible Man.
He did a lot of those types of movies.
He did.
Yeah. He came back with a Beverly Hills Cop sequel recently, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that. I didn't. He had a real falling out with SNL over the years, where he got mad that they were making fun of him during like one of his darker periods, and didn't come on for like 20 years, and then came back on and eventually hosted it a couple of years ago, I think. But he was on the show, and he's really funny. I mean, like, is
he doing stand-up anymore?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, he certainly is active as far as, he did do that. That was a big deal. I think it was Netflix did it. I don't know. The Beverly Hills Cop thing.
I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, and then just didn't watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I thought, I'd give that a shot, but then I didn't give it a shot.
Yeah. You guys sent me on a rabbit hole. What's the show you guys were talking about on ABC where the woman is like some genius and she's
Oh, yeah, the Caitlin Olsen show. Gosh, I don't even know the name of it. I'll find it real quick.
High Potential. I watched that with Tanya.
What'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was actually really good.
It's kind of entertaining, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's an ABC show, so it's completely clean. And really good.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, she's really, she's great in anything she's in. But yes, it was actually pretty entertaining. I'm excited. I don't know if I'm excited for Suits LA, which is coming out next week. I watched Suits in its original airing on USA Network. I was like addicted to it when it was on, and no one watched it. And then it became the most popular Netflix show ever. Mm-hmm. So when they do with the reruns, and so now they're like, oh, you guys like this thing? You never told us this before. Let's do a whole new series and act like it's something different. So now Suits LA is coming out next week, and I don't know, it could be terrible, but it seems like they're going to bring back Harvey Specter, and like I'm excited about it. I'm in.
Have you seen? I avoided this just because of the name with Kathy Bates, Matlock. Have you seen that? I didn't watch it, honestly, because I'm like you, Matlock. I'm really not going to watch Matlock. She actually took the name as, she says, she's going in kind of undercover at this law firm, and she picks the name Matlock because it's the TV show. Who's going to think that that's a made-up name? Why would I pick Matlock as a disguised name? I mean, and she's actually really, really good in it. It's a great show.
Well, she's great. I mean, but
I like her.
I thought it was just a remake of
No, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
it's not. Okay. It's really good. It's really good. All right. Back in just a minute with actual news that matters. Stand by.
This is Glenn Beck.